Hi!
Hello! Today we're going to be showing you just kind of how to do these washer pendants for necklaces. So basically with these we spray painted them, then we used rub-ons and stickers and tattoos, and then we put a coat of dimensional magic Mod Podge on top. So the materials that you're going to need are
Dimensional Mod Podge.
That's what the package looks like. That cost $4.99. We got it at Joann's, but we used a 40% off coupon, so it was a couple of dollars off of that. You're also going to need some kind of spray paint. We used these for... So those are Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2-time Ultra Cover Paint and Primer with a satin finish, so in these colors. And then we also used some of this one, the spray enamel in black, gloss black. These paints costed, it was $3.50. I think that might have been a sale price at OSH. And I'm not sure how much this one was, but it's probably about the same price. We also got some fender washers at OSH. This is a 75 pack. These are the 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch fender washers. So for 75, it cost, I think, $9.50 plus tax. And you'll also need a variety of rub-ons. These are just, some of the rub-ons that we use from different companies, and this is American Crafts. We have some Making Memories, Kaiser Craft. These we used a lot of the Heidi Grace borders. Some more American Crafts. These basic gray ones work pretty good too. And then this one, actually these were too big to use, but just you'll need, some rub-ons. Usually we use the rub-ons mostly for the words. And then we also found that you could use different tattoos. These are those temporary tattoos that you use. So this is just a pack of Hello Kitty temporary tattoos. Even cheap tattoos would probably work. You would just probably need to experiment with what you have. You could also use stickers. Ones that probably don't have like a lot of white border or border around it would work the best. And we also experimented a little bit with stamping on them, so you would need like some small stamps. These are from the Sweet Stamp Shop. If you do decide to stamp on them, you'll need to use Stays-On ink so that it doesn't come off, and you can also color them in with Sharpies. But the thing with the stamps is it's a little bit slippery on the surface, so it tends to not be as crisp an image, just to let you know. Okay, and you'll also need a toothpick. And if you want to hang the pendants, so here's an example of one that's done on some cording. You'll need some cording, something like this from Michael's, this is bead landing, a multi-pack from Michael's, and then maybe some beads to put on top. The main thing, if you're going to put beads on top, is you'll need to get a bead that has an opening big enough to string both of the strings through. Okay. It's actually kind of a long process doing this. So if you're it's not something you can just do in a hurry, because you're going to need to spray paint both sides of the washer. So first you spray the front side, and you have to let it dry, preferably at least maybe a day or so, and then you would spray paint the back side. And just some tips on that is, if you don't let it completely dry, and then you try spraying it or putting another coat on, I don't know if you can see that, but it starts cracking and it's not going to be usable. So this is like this side, and then when we sprayed the other side, it cracked. So just let it dry really well in between coats. And we just did one coat that was thick enough on the washer, and then we flipped it over and then did the other side. Okay. Okay, once it's spray painted, we'll kind of show you how you apply the temporary tattoo. So you take your image, so we're using one from that Hello Kitty tattoo set, so this is a tattoo, and you're going to apply it just like you would a normal temporary tattoo. So peel off the little clear part on that, place it where you want it, and then you're going to need to put a wet cloth over it and completely saturate it with water on the back, just kind of like this. This is just plain water. You have to completely saturate it, and that transfers the picture to the washer. And then you just peel off that backing, just like that. And then carefully dry it off. You don't want to scratch your image. Okay, so that's how that looks. Okay, so that's how you do the temporary tattoo. If you had a sticker, you would just stick the sticker on. Okay, so now we're going to put the word on. This is actually a rub-on. So it says friend. This is from the Kaiser Craft pack of rub-ons. I'm sorry, it's zoomed in, but it's this Kaiser Craft one. So we just used it from right here where it said friends. Okay, so with that, when you peel off the wax backing and place it where you want it on the washer, yeah. Okay. Then you can use something to scratch it off. So you could either use, they usually come with a popsicle stick or, you know, just something like that. Okay, so now just hold it down really well and just scratch or rub on each of the letters, rub over the letter. And that transfers the design onto the washer. Rub-ons used to be popular several years back, kind of in scrapbooking and crafting. So I don't know about now. I think they're a little bit harder to find. And rub-ons, depending on the manufacturer, some are better than others. Some are, you know, rub off really easily and are really nice. Others don't rub off as well, and over time it seems like they're not as good. So for example, we ordered a pack of rub-ons just to have more words and things to use on these washers. So this was a pack from, I bought a pack from Making Memories. It kind of looks like this. We actually purchased it recently off of Amazon, and I knew they were old because I don't even think Making Memories is in business anymore, so I knew they were older rub-ons. And when we got the package, some of them, you know, are already sticking to the plastic or the wax backing, and that tends to happen to a lot of the rub-ons over time. We were still able to use a lot of the words and things off of that, so we were fine with it. But just so you know, rub-ons don't really have a long shelf life. Okay, so that's what it looks like after you rub it on. So now we're going to put on a coat of the Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. This one, it's really liquidy. Do not shake the bottle because you don't want to be getting bubbles on your image. So you'll just carefully take off the top. It's very liquidy, and you'll just apply. And if you could try to get the bubbles off before you do that, but then just you'll start coating the area, and it tends to kind of spread out over the area, so you just want like a thin film over the entire surface of it. And then you can use a toothpick to kind of push it. You want to make sure you push it all the way to the edges. It's probably even okay if it goes off the edges just a little bit. You don't want to be too much going off the edge, but you know, it makes it nice and even, and just kind of spread it out evenly over the image, just like that. Okay. And since it is so liquidy, it spreads pretty nicely, and it'll as long as you know it's a nice flat surface, it'll spread evenly. And then you kind of just need to check for any air bubbles. So that's really nice. I think we did get a little bit underneath, so I think I'm going to move it a little and wipe underneath. But after that, you just let it sit. The bottle says you need to let it sit at least 3 hours to air dry. But it leaves a really pretty shiny coat, and it also protects the image that you put on there. So after you let it completely dry, then you can string the cording, you know, through the middle of it and just attach it, and then you can we just tied a knot on the other end, but it would just hang like that. So we'll show you some examples of how they look. These are a couple that before we put the Dimensional Magic on it, so it's kind of just real flat and not shiny. And then after we added it, let's see, we can show you a few different colored ones. I really like the black ones. The black ones really show off nicely. You kind of need to make sure the stickers or the rub-ons or even the tattoos that you put on, don't use one like dark colored ones on the darker washers because it won't show up at all. But the whites or lighter colors seem to really show up nicely. On the pastels, you can use the darker colors like that. Some other ones that are kind of cute. Some of them are just kind of simple. Just have a rub-on, just a couple of rub-ons, keep it simple. An example of one that we used with just a plain sticker. So this cat is just a plain sticker, and we just kind of cut it on the edge just to make it fit on there. And then we added some of these glitter hearts on there. And then the word is actually a rub-on, but we didn't have a rub-on that said meow. So this is basically cut from the word memories. So it's the M-E from the memories, and then we turned it over and used the other 2 letters from the rest of the word. And then we put the gloss coating over it. With the stickers though, when you look at them, they're not as flat as the rub-on images. You can kind of see that they're raised, and you can kind of see that they're stickers. So we actually prefer using the rub-ons because then it's like completely flat. It just looks like you somehow printed on there, and it's really, really pretty. It's kind of hard to see in here, but it's completely flat on there, and it's really nice. But I think the limitation might be, it might be kind of hard to find smaller rub-ons that are going to fit on there. We also experimented with stamping on the washers with the Stays-On ink. So that's what that one was again. So this image here, it's hard to see, the noodle bowl we stamped on, and then the other parts we used rub-ons to put the enjoy, and then the other stickers, and then we just used a Sharpie marker to color in the image. The Sharpie you can kind of see the brush or the lines when you do it, so it's probably a smaller image is better to use. And this was from the Sweet Stamp Shop set. It was this noodle right here that we used. So if you're able to make any, we would love to see some of the ones that you made, and if you like any of these in particular, we'd love to hear which one was your favorite. I can kind of show some of these real quick. All right. Okay, thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.